Greetings and welcome to another Impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Disaster Report 4 Summer Memories. Disaster Report 4 takes place in a Japanese city during a major natural disaster. Players take on the role of someone who's visiting the city for one reason or another, when suddenly a huge earthquake hits, upending a bus and destroying large parts of the city. You need to make your way through the ruined streets as everything around you quite literally falls apart, helping other survivors along your way, or not, while also ensuring your own survival. This is the foundation of a really interesting game at Disaster Report 4's core. This sequel eschews the Hollywood-esque approach to Titanic natural disasters. Sure, buildings collapse, and fires get out of control, and occasionally there's an explosion, but this is a game that seems more interested in telling a grounded, street-level story about the aftermath of a terrible and tragic event. It's just a shame that it so utterly fails to stick the landing. From almost the very first moments of the game, there's something that's just not quite right about Disaster Report 4. You begin in a park, after having been just told the best thing to do in a severe earthquake is to stay in a large open area. It's not long before you run across a teacher desperately looking for some of his students, and after agreeing to find them, you all decide to leave the relative safety of the park to make an incredibly dangerous journey, crawling underneath collapsed rubble, running underneath collapsed skyscrapers, and pushing vans as a nearby fire rages and gets bigger. Yes, I'm spoiling things that happen. I need to. I have to get some of the things I witnessed in this game off my chest, and I feel like the only way I can accurately surmise how badly this game missed the mark is to use specific examples. I will preface all of this by saying I've thankfully never been caught up in a disaster like an earthquake in this game, and I don't profess to be an expert. But this game is genuinely baffling in a multitude of different ways. There are some really well done moments. Talking through the previously mentioned teacher's anxieties about her students, helping a woman trapped in a fallen building that continues to collapse. These are interesting moments that play well with the premise of surviving the aftermath of a huge natural disaster. They're also few and far between. Most of the unnamed city you explore seem to be going about business as usual. An IT company office still sees many employees working away as if skyscrapers, like the one they're currently sitting at the top of, aren't still falling in the city around them. Far from making their way to designated shelters, there are people who seem to be doing nothing but going about their daily routine. Some streets are packed not just with the injured or emergency services, but people calmly heading to work or a shop, right before a highway falls on them. And if I wasn't already having trouble trying to figure out what tone Disaster Report 4 was aiming for, the constant option to flirt with literally every woman in the game wasn't helping. It'd be one thing if the game portrayed a story of a romance developing amidst a crisis, but hitting on school children or a woman who has just seemingly survived a sexual assault minutes earlier, it's creepy, gross, and told me everything I needed to know about what kind of game I was playing. You can't hit on any dudes, just in case you were wondering. Disaster Report 4 allows you to play as a woman, but it's very clear that the game isn't actually built to accommodate that choice, which I quickly realised when I was given the option of peeing in a urinal. There are survival mechanics that see you need to eat, drink, and pee, though you can safely ignore them because they don't actually do anything. Watching a woman whip out a non-existent penis to take a whiz is kind of the perfect analogy for how broken this game's logic is. A huge chunk of my time playing Disaster Report 4 was spent wandering around, aimlessly trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to do to make progress. Trying to work out what to do next is incredibly counterintuitive. You're offered no guidance or help finding the next story beat. There are no tutorials to teach you any of the controls, or that you have, say, an inventory, which was a surprise to me over an hour into the game. You run around whatever small space you happen to find yourself in, hoping to bump into a cutscene or NPC that might give you an idea of what to do next. Or sometimes you'll be tossed into, say, one of the worst stealth sections in video game history with no idea what you're trying to accomplish, other than don't get caught. In one area, I spent 20 minutes looking for a way to get help for a man who was injured and waiting on an ambulance that would never come, figuring this was the exact type of event I could intervene in a game like this. You can't help that man, just feel sorry for him and walk away. Instead, progress through this particular area of the game hinges on finding some toilet paper for a man in a convenience store. which you'd think would be easy, given that you're in a convenience store. But this quest kicks off a series of convoluted and illogical events that include impersonating a member of the store staff and clearing a queue of irate customers who are unhappy that there's no one to serve them minutes after an earthquake that has toppled half the buildings in that very street. There's more to it, but you get the gist. Only once you've completed this series of tasks will the tectonic plates shake once again, knocking another building over to grant you a path to your next objective. There's also a binary morality system where you receive moral points for being a good person and immoral points for being a bad person. I'm not sure what these points are supposed to affect. Maybe they exist purely to guilt you into not being an arsehole during a disaster. But I also don't want to meet the person or people who decided what is moral and immoral. At one point during the game, I was forced to join a cult, because despite the myriad of choices available, you still actually have to do what the game wants if you want to progress. One of my tasks during this section of the game was to trick other people into joining up. Succeed, and you are given moral points, because tricking people into joining a cult during a natural disaster is apparently something a good person would do. During this section, you can also find a ring, which someone earlier told you was stolen. If you take the ring, regardless of whether you intend to give it back to its owner, you're given a huge amount of immoral points. Disaster Report 4 is a broken game. Not necessarily in terms of its performance. I played on PC with relatively few issues, but I've heard that the console versions are, ironically, disastrous. No, Disaster Report 4 is broken in an entirely different way. It just doesn't make any damn sense. You'll spend most of your time wandering around trying to figure out what illogical thing you need to accomplish to make progress, while trying not to puke at how disturbingly creepy some of its pointless dialogue options are, navigate the alarming morality system, and generally wonder why you're playing this game in the first place. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, consider sticking around here at Words About Games. Our content includes review impressions of games big and small, a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing the happenings in and around the games industry, weekly opinion videos, reactions, debate-driven top 5 and top 10 lists, a regular Hall of Fame series where we discuss our favourite games, and indie game spotlights. We also stream every Friday and Saturday at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. Most importantly, have a brilliant day.